You can tell this has been a slow news day. And to be more accurate, a slow news week. Well, a couple of weeks. Really nothing interesting coming out of the news wire. But breaking news. This just came in. Brandon Marshall agreed the terms with Fox Sports 1. And he's going to be co-hosting First Things First alongside Nick Wright, Jenna Wolfe. I believe the man's name's Nick Wilder. You guys, I butcher names on a regular basis. And he's going to be the fourth banana on that show. Now, First Things First, I'm not a huge fan of it. If it happens to be on the television or on the telly, I will watch it. If it happens to be on a YouTube video, I might click to it to see what they're saying next. But I haven't been a big, strong supporter or fan for First Things First. And it really has nothing to do with them firing Chris Carter. I was always neutral about this show anyway, okay? So, a lot of people were wondering and speculating who was going to be their NFL correspondent, their NFL analyst, because they let go of Chris Carter. And, that fourth seat has been a revolving door, a revolving chair, so to say. Chris Broussard has been in that chair, and other current and former analysts, as well as athletes, have been that fourth wheel. Okay, so now they have a permanent member of Brandon Marshall. Now, Brandon Marshall, the last time I saw Brandon Marshall, he was trying out for the Indianapolis Colts, and then before that, he was on the Seattle Seahawks roster. And I guess the window's closed as far as him continuing his career as an NFL player. And his career is just now starting as a sports analyst, okay? I don't know what he's going to bring to the table. Me personally, if I have to speculate, he still has connections and ties with former and current NFL players, as well as coaches and GMs, things of that nature. So his expertise are going to be needed for that show, So why did they agree with Brandon Marshall, particularly when you got other seasonal former NFL players that they could have signed, okay? At one point, Deion Sanders was out on the market just a couple of days ago. Well, a couple of weeks ago. They could have gotten Deion Sanders. But when you're talking about the brand of Deion Sanders, you're going to be throwing a lot of money just to get him interested. And maybe that was a cost matter. But I know a lot of other former NFL players that could have occupied that seat, okay? So, once again, I'm just speculating. I'm just assuming that the reason why they agreed with Brandon Marshall is because it's a money thing. They're not going to pay him a lot to do what he's going to be doing on First Things First, okay? It's not like he's bringing some substance to the table that, they said, well, we need him because of his name, his brand, and his expertise and things of that nature. Now, Brandon Marshall has been in and out of, these these sports shows. I remember way back on First Take when Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith was manning that show. Brandon Marshall would come in as a guest, a host, and sometimes a host, okay? From the small data I gathered, I think he's decent. He's not, he has personality, charisma about himself. He also can bring things to the table that the average person, the average player simply can't, or NFL player simply can't, or journalists that can't. He has a long fight with mental illness. And he always brought awareness to that subject. So that's something that he can bring to the table as well over there at First Things First. He's a former NFL athlete, so he can bring the current state of affairs of an NFL locker room. Okay, so I can see a lot of dimensions where it's very beneficial for Fox Sports 1. But I still feel like there were other former players that could have occupied that seat. Now, as far as First Things First go, is this going to spike the ratings? Are a lot of people going to come in? Are a lot of people going to start watching it more since Brandon Marshall is joining First Things First? I'm going to assume no. Okay. Brandon Marshall's name is not a dynamic name. Okay. It's not a household name. Okay. A novice fan would not even know Brandon. If you uttered the word Brandon Marshall, they would have no idea who are you talking about. Okay. And that's just a novice. And as far as, somebody that's seasonal, I know Brandon Marshall's name. I know him all the way back to the Denver, era. Okay. So him and Jay Cutler. Okay. And truth be known, I feel like Jay Cutler, and this is off the mark of what we're talking about today. I feel like Jay Cutler has dealt with a lot of demons similar to what Brandon Marshall dealt with. And that's why I felt like I think Jay Cutler had a better relationship with Brandon Marshall than any other player that he ever played with. Okay. So so me personally, I felt like that's why that bond was so strong between those two. Okay. But back to the subject, Brandon Marshall, as far as First Things First go, I don't see this pushing the needles. I don't see a lot of people going to be like, okay, they signed Brandon Marshall, now I'm going to start paying attention to First Things First. Obviously, they need somebody with some expertise when NFL starts. And me personally, when you look at First Things First, when it was Nick Wright and Chris Carter, their better shows were football-related shows, okay? That's when all cylinders were clicking, when they had football topics or current events that affect the universe of football. Okay, but as far as basketball goes, they were mediocre on that type of subject. They passed on hockey and baseball. They with or without Chris Carter. Okay, so I felt like that show was built around a football audience. Okay, so maybe a novice football fan may not be familiar with Brandon Marshall, but someone that's a little bit more seasonal will be more familiar with Brandon Marshall. And as far as the viewership when football season starts, they got a fresh face there. Brandon Marshall, he's very entertaining. His IQ is up there. So this is a solid hire. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best hire, because me personally, I know of 10 others that could have done a better job than Brandon Marshall. This is going to be Brandon Marshall's first broadcast type of big deal type of job. Okay, Fox Sports 1 is like ESPN. Okay, it's up there. Okay, we're not talking about no average mediocre sports channel or sports network. We're talking about Fox Sports 1, folks. Okay, and it's up, and I put it up there as well as ESPN. Okay, they are the two networks that with the are the major leagues. Okay, and there's no one that can come close to those two entities. Okay, so nevertheless, that's all that's going on So I just felt like I should just make a video on it. Guys, you know what you got to do. I'm up out of here. Deuces.